The Dance of Redemption and the Iroko Tree's Judgmentus. Magdalene danced in the village square, her steps heavy with bitterness and defiance. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Her movements were not those of a woman broken, but of a queen fighting to reclaim her honor. With each step, she inched closer to the entrance of the sacred shrine, where the ancient Iroko tree stood tall and imposing, its roots deep in the earth and its branches reaching toward the heavens. The Iroko tree was no ordinary tree. It was a symbol of the god's presence, a conduit between the mortal world and the divine. To embrace it while dancing naked was the highest act of sacredness, a plea for justice that no one dared to make lightly. Magdalene's steps quickened, her bare feet pounding against the earth as she ran toward the Iroko tree. The crowd gasped as she threw her arms around its massive trunk, her body pressed against its rough bark. Tears streamed down her face as she cried out in a voice that echoed across the square, "Iroko, sacred tree of the gods. If I am innocent of these accusations, let those who have conspired against me lose their minds. Let their deceit be their undoing." The air grew still, as if the world itself held its breath. The drums ceased their beating, and the villagers stood frozen in place. Then, slowly, a low hum began to emanate from the Iroko tree, a sound that seemed to come from deep within the earth. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the sky darkened as clouds gathered overhead. Suddenly, the three queens who had accused Magdalene began to sway where they stood. Their eyes widened in terror as they clutched their heads, their faces contorting in pain. They screamed, their voices rising in a cacophony of madness. One by one, they collapsed to the ground, writhing and muttering incoherently. The villagers watched in horror as the once proud queens were reduced to babbling wrecks, their minds shattered by the Iroko tree's judgment. The chief elder, a wise man with a long white beard, stepped forward, his voice trembling as he addressed the crowd. "The gods have spoken. Magdalene is innocent, and her accusers have been punished for their deceit. Let this be a lesson to all who would use lies to destroy others. The Iroko tree has delivered its verdict, and its judgment is final." King Agabus, his face pale with shock, rushed to Magdalene's side. He fell to his knees before her, his voice filled with remorse. "Forgive me, my queen. I allowed my anger to blind me, and I failed to protect you. I beg for your forgiveness." Magdalene, still clutching the Iroko tree, looked down at her husband with a mixture of sorrow and strength. "You are forgiven, my king," she said softly. "But let this day mark a change in our kingdom. Let justice no longer be swift and blind, but fair and true. Let the Iroko tree's judgment remind us all that the gods see what lies in our hearts." From that day forward, the justice system of Fra Bianco was forever altered. No longer would accusations be taken at face value, and no longer would punishment be meted out without thorough investigation. The Iroko tree became the ultimate arbiter of truth, and those who sought to deceive were warned of its divine power. Magdalene's dance and her embrace of the Iroko tree became a symbol of justice and redemption, a story told and retold for generations. The three queens, now lost to madness, served as a grim reminder of the consequences of deceit. And Magdalene, once the king's favorite, became the people's champion, a queen who had faced humiliation and emerged stronger, her name forever etched in the annals of Fra Bianco's history. And so, the kingdom learned that true justice is not born of anger or haste, but of truth, fairness, and the courage to seek it even in the face of great adversity.